Welcome to Bite Size Rando. My name is Dieter Kirby. Today we're going to try and learn how to use the Cane of Somaria to do this mummy room in Skullwoods really fast. It's going to look something like that. So for this mummy room, if you do not have the Cane of Somaria, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do some sort of strategy involving pushing this statue here. And it is definitely worth practicing this and having a plan on how to execute it. It's also worth noting that the AI of these Gibdo enemies is relatively predictable, so if you have a specific plan and you always move the same way for executing this room, then hopefully you can get by without getting hit by these mummies, right? So something like that. But this is relatively slow, and it takes maybe 13-14 seconds. So if you have the Cane of Somaria instead, you can just walk across the switch, turn around, lay the Somaria block, and go on through, and it'll take maybe a little bit over 7 seconds instead. So that's definitely a lot faster. But there is a little bit of inefficiency with that strategy, and that is every time you push or release this switch, you can see that the game kind of pauses for a little bit, and I can't move while the door is opening or closing. So in this strategy, I have to push the switch, let go of the switch, and then wait for it to open again when I place the Somaria block. So that's 3 different pauses. It turns out we can lower that down to just 1 pause. The way that's going to work is we're going to step onto the switch. We're going to continue to move upward until we're on the upper part of the switch. You can actually move pretty far upward without letting go of the switch. Then we're going to turn either left or right, lay the Somaria block, and at this point it's going to be directly on top of you. Now, if you press the D-pad from here, you'll find that you can't move, since the Somaria block is overlapping your hitbox. You'll just push the block. So you want to push the block downward enough so that it's still on the switch, but it's no longer overlapping your hitbox, and you'll find that you can press upward and escape to just walk out of the room. Now, there's a bunch of different things that can kind of go wrong when you're trying to execute this strat and when you're learning it. One is if you move too far upwards, of course, you'll let go of the switch, and then you'll kind of negate all the benefits of doing the strat in the first place. So it's basically like if you had done the vanilla version. Another thing that can happen is if you don't walk upwards enough, then by the time you push the block downwards enough to get free of its hitbox, it's no longer actually holding the switch down, so that won't work. And the third thing that can happen is if you don't push the block downward enough, and you try to move upwards too early, then you'll just end up pushing the block upwards, and that is going to be really bad too. So try to not do that. So try to practice this so you can get a feel of the spacing and exactly how far down you need to push the block. Ideally, you can get it so that it's one smooth, continuous motion with no real delay in between, so something kind of like that. If you're practicing this in the practice hack, it's worth noting you can use the game state remove sprites option, and that will get rid of the wall master in this room so that you can practice and not have to worry about that. One other thing is when you step onto the switch, you can try holding upwards to move onto the upper portion of the switch, or you can also try letting go of the up button and timing another up press once the door pause is done. That might help you to time the up press a little bit easier than if you just hold upwards the entire way. But you can try it both ways and see what works for you. But once you've gotten the hang of that, you can put it together with the full room strat where you need to slash jellies and then lift the pot before placing the Somaria block like we mentioned before. Hopefully I can get it this time. Let's see. It's going to look something like that, and you can see that that was a 6:17, so that does indeed save maybe around half a second. I will say that for timing this room, a lot of it actually ends up coming down to how many lag frames are generated by all the sprites in the room, because there's kind of a lot of objects and a lot of stuff going on. Something else you can try if you want to be more optimal is to dash into this room, and that's going to be a little bit faster. But again, as you're timing this room, do keep in mind that a lot of it is going to depend on whether the jellies drop items, whether you kill them on the same frame, what the Gibdos are doing, because there's a lot of different things in this room that can generate lag. So part of it is kind of up to RNG. Sometimes you'll get faster times, sometimes you'll get slower times. So you see that time was relatively lagless, so I got a 6:10, but for some reason when I'm dashing, sometimes it's more laggy. That time it just failed execution. But try this strat out, and hopefully it can help you in your next run, save you maybe half a second, or maybe even up to a full second, depending on your luck with the live frames, and hopefully that helps.